love the Prime Trilogy, they're great games, and when I heard of the incredibly poor reception that Metroid Other M got, I pretty much avoided it like the plague. One of my friends got the game and he hates it with a passion. Thing is, he has a far larger game collection than I do, so I wanted to borrow some games off of him so I could do videos of them. Thing is, he is a complete evil swine and said that in order to borrow the games I wanted to, I also had to borrow Other M and do a video of that too, so here we go. Now although I love the Prime Trilogy, Other M takes place as though the Prime Trilogy didn't happen, which is a stupid idea, but what the hell, we'll roll with it. So I'm going to be looking at Other M as a game in its own right, rather than just comparing it to the Prime Trilogy, which has already been done hundreds of times before. So seeing as I'm doing this because someone wants to make me suffer, I'm going to be starting with all the things I like about Other M purely to spite them. Firstly, the graphics. The game looks amazing. They've really gone to town with the attention to detail. The cutscenes look superb and, as you'd expect, Samus is damn hot. So, of course, the developers really want you to notice that by giving us plenty of butt shots pretty much every time her power suit deactivates. There are some amazing scenes throughout the game, especially as the game draws to an end. Another good thing is the combat system. As it's a third-person perspective, you can do more than just shoot enemies with your power beam due to the lethal strike, allowing you to do stuff like jump on enemies and shoot them with your power beam, or pinning them down and shoot them with your power beam, or opening their mouths and shooting them with your power beam. Okay, so most of it is just different ways of shooting them with your power beam, but who cares? It looks awesome! Well, you can throw enemies and kick them in the face, which is funky, but they're counters, so you can't do those whenever you feel like it. And if you're expecting that low battery sign in the corner to go away soon, you're going to be disappointed, as I actually made it around 90% of the way through the game before I actually needed to change them. Well, there's two things about the game I like, so what else is there? Actually, there were some things about the overarching plot that I quite like, so watch out for spoilers, let's delve into that. To put things into perspective, at the end of Metroid 2, Samus finds a baby Metroid which thinks Samus is its mother. She takes it to a space station and hands it over to some scientists. Shortly after leaving, she picks up a distress signal from the station, so it goes back to find it's been attacked. She comes across Ridley who, after a brief fight, flies off with the baby Metroid, so Samus follows him to planet Zebes. She explores the planet looking for the baby Metroid, and these events take place in Metroid 2's sequel, Super Metroid. At the end of the game, she finds the Metroid fully grown while she is battling Mother Brain, where the baby Metroid sacrifices itself to save Samus, and this is where Other M starts off, with the Mother Brain fight and the Metroid sacrificing itself being beautifully redone.
Mother, time to go.
But then we get one of the regular characters in the game, Samus's inner monologue.
A dream. I had been reliving the tragic moments of my recent past.
There's going to be a lot of that sort of thing throughout this game, so brace yourself, but there is one thing she's determined she won't let us forget.
By the baby, and the baby, or the baby of the baby, the baby, the baby.
But it wasn't just the baby that made its end after Super Metroid.
The explosion that followed destroyed planet Zebes, along with the remains of Mother Brain, the space pirates, and my long-standing nemesis, Ridley.
It's time for a new adventure, and it's not long before you stumble across one and meet up with members of the Galactic Federation led by Adam Malcovich, who gives everyone their mission.
Lyle, investigate Sector 1 and show a little restraint with the explosives.
Gotcha.
Maurice, you cover Sector 2. Repair any equipment you come across.
Affirmative.
Anthony, you're Sector 3. I'll leave it to you to decide whether plasma guns are called for.
All right.
James, check out the control bridge. Our communication issues might be the result of electrical interference.
Yes, sir.
And KG, run a complete sweep of the residential quarters and investigate any trace of survivors.
Got it.
And Samus, You go to the system management room. Do everything you can to get the electrical system back up and running.
So everyone heads off, you start kicking ass, but you soon find out what the ship was used for.
The ship is under management of the Galactic Federation. In these facilities, life forms from each planet have been raised and researched as possible bioweapons. Site Manager and Development Director, Dr. Madeline Bergman.
It's soon after that you just so happen to come across a woman. It's bound to be Madeline Bergman.
The woman?
It's Madeline Bergman.
What's your name?
Madeline Bergman.
Gee, what a shock. Well, at least now we get to see what's going on here.
Behind closed doors, the Galactic Federation was trying to create a special forces unit composed of bioweapons. In order to make it happen, they were attempting to create an organization modeled after the space pirates, with the Zebesians at the center. But the life forms became ferocious. We were no longer able to control them. I felt there was a real danger here, that if left as is, the Zebesians would continue to evolve and resurrect as real space pirates.
But that's not all of it.
What? That's not possible. The Metroids were terminated along with Zebes.
You're Samus Aran, right? The one who annihilated the space pirates? Metroid remnants were attached to your suit when you returned from Zebes. They were reproduced from a piece of cell structure salvaged by the Federation, and they are in this facility.
See, that's an alright twist, taking the Metroid DNA scraped from Samus's suit, recreating them, and then turning them into stronger bioweapons. That's alright, but there's even more to it.
But in order to control Metroids, you need Mother Brain's telepathy. You don't. You didn't recreate a Mother Brain clone, did you?
It's artificial intelligence. We developed an AI program that would reproduce Mother Brain's thought processes. We called it MB. MB evolved as it communicated with the Metroids. It appears as though it began to become self-aware, much like the original Mother Brain.
I began to see what the worst-case scenario would look like. The ultimate weapon, the Metroid, would be mass-produced, and as soon as an AI that could control them was developed, the plan to create a special forces unit modeled after the space pirates was replaced.
So although Samus destroyed planet Zebes at the end of Super Metroid, because scientists pretty much wanted to try and play God and dabble into bioweapons that they could control but ultimately weren't able to, they've pretty much accidentally put the entire galaxy in peril by creating stronger versions of creatures that they wanted destroyed in the first place because they were too dangerous. I don't know, is that a good plot twist or is that just plain stupid? Maybe Madeline has some answers. Who the fuck's that?
My name is Madeline Bergman.
Oh, right, wait. What?
What you met was MB. She's an android. She was created with the intellectual data of Mother Brain and consequently developed Mother Brain's consciousness as well.
See, that twist I actually quite liked, and there are far more who's, hows and whys which all tie into the events that are the precursor to the entire game. It's all accompanied by one hell of an epic cinematic, and I actually found it to be quite gripping. Unfortunately, all of that happens quite near the end of the game, and although it's awesome, it's a bit too little too late to save it from all the other aspects of the game. One of the things I've really liked about Super Metroid and the Prime Trilogy is being able to explore, but Other M has pretty much none of it. Your destination appears on the map as well as the corridors you'll need to go down to get there. Once you get there, what happens? You get shown a new destination and the corridors to go down. Guess what happens when you get there? That's right, new destination and corridors, and that is all you do. Run down narrow corridors with the occasional large room thrown in for good measure. There are also a few areas where you'll just walk slowly along for no apparent reason. There is nothing to stop you from running along as normal, so why walk so slowly, particularly when you're trying to follow someone? It gets really tedious really quickly, especially as some of them can go on for bloody ages. the stupid hide-and-seek games where you stand there and have to look at a specific piece of scenery in order to advance. Look at this one. After a battle, you start looking at your team and turn to see the rest of the field. You need to look at those green blood splats on the floor, which could easily be overlooked, and you're not given any clue whatsoever. It's those you need to look at. I even moved the crosshair over the splats a few times and nothing happens, so you'd think you'd need to look at something else, but you have to keep the crosshair on it long enough for it to activate. These things happen regularly throughout the game and are completely pointless. If there were various things you could look at each time, and depending on what you noticed affected the course of the game, that would work pretty well, as it would be your own observations that are affecting the game, rather than wasting time trying to randomly point at the one thing they want you to, which could just as easily have been accomplished by having Samus look at it during the cutscene. Though those parts are a bit annoying and pointless, they're bearable. There's far worse stuff in the game, but the problem is, a lot of those aspects can be blamed on one person. Adam fucking Malcovich. But before I tear him a new one, let's put some things into perspective. We know Samus is upset about the death of the baby Metroid, but it's not just Samus herself that is trying to ram it down our throats. Take the distress signal she intercepts that leads her to the ship that the game takes place on.
Codename Baby's Cry. A common SOS with the urgency of a baby crying.
But if that wasn't subtle enough, have a look at the ship that the signal was coming from. A bottle ship, shaped like a baby's bottle. Thing is, the shape of the ship has no reflection whatsoever on the events of the game, so it could have been shaped like a triple-headed dildo and it wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference. So why? Are we supposed to be going, oh, that must be really tough on Samus? But considering what she's done so far, are you really going to be thinking that? Thing is, things get even worse when she meets up with Adam.
Adam Malcovich, a general in the Galactic Federation Army. Not only a trusted confidant, but also my former superior officer. Yes, there was a time when I was enrolled in the Galactic Federation Army.
It's clear Samus has daddy issues, and she even admits it on several occasions, but what's strange is that even given the stuff with the baby, her history, her relationship with Adam, everything that's happened up until now, they actually managed to destroy Samus's credibility as a strong, dependable female character in one line.
What are you doing here?
The first words out of his mouth were typical coming from Adam. To answer his question, I recounted the details of what had brought me to this place, and then I asked what circumstances led the Federation here.
That information is not for an outsider.
The word he so obviously chose, outsider, pierced my heart.
This is the woman who went to planet Zebes and blew it up in order to eradicate the Metroids and the space pirates without so much as batting an eye, yet call her an outsider.
Pierced my heart.
I mean, really. There are loads of scenes throughout the game where she just comes across as being whiny, needy, emotional and pathetic, but there's one part in particular where her reactions are just plain retarded. Shortly after starting the game, you come across this little critter. Look at him, he's adorable, and luckily he comes back to visit later. Okay, that's a bit gross, but he's still fluffy.
He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
Oh no, sure he'll grow up to be a cuddly, fluffy, holy Jesus. What is that thing? Where'd the cute, fluffy critter thing go? What, you expect me to believe that that came out of that? Seriously? Well, okay, let's roll with it. I'll probably end up having to track it down and kick its ass. Huh. Okay, not what I expected. But if it went from cute and fluffy, mostly, to that, what is it now?
Ridley?
Yo, Ridley's back! I bet Samus is surprised to see him.
Samus, use your plasma beam. What's your status?
It can't be!
Let her go!
is she acting so scared? It's Ridley. She's fought him God knows how many times, 2 or 3 in Super Metroid alone. In fact, the first thing you fight in Super Metroid is Ridley. In fact, at the start of Other M, she even said,
And my long-standing nemesis, Ridley.
so why is she acting like a complete pussy? Get in there and kick his ass again. Anthony has never seen Ridley before, yet he gets stuck in there and even starts heckling him.
Hey! Hey, Pop! Don't you know how to treat a lady? Man, you got no style. I think I gotta teach you a lesson about silence. Come on!
So why does Samus just stand there like a complete muppet? At first I just thought it was because she was surprised to see him rather than scared, but the fact it shows her as a little girl, which I'm assuming is meant to represent how weak and defenseless she feels, is a complete load of bollocks. And it's not just the way she reacted that's annoying, it's also what happens to Anthony because of her reaction. That's right, she is so afraid of Ridley that Anthony has to step in and save her, which ultimately causes him to get killed. Okay, no, he does survive, but he only manages to survive due to dumb luck, a situation he never would have been in if Samus had have acted like Samus. If I'd have been Anthony in that situation, I'd have been all, hey bitch, what the hell's wrong with you? It's Ridley, you fought him 1,000,000 times already. Mario's fought Bowser a gajillion times so far, and yet does Mario crap his pants when Bowser turns up? No! He gets in there, kicks his ass, saves the day, and everyone goes off for cake. So grow some balls and man the fuck up! Of course, she does eventually man the fuck up, but only after Anthony seemingly dies. You fight Ridley, but he isn't particularly hard. Initially, you can just run around shooting charged plasma beams at him, which quickly makes him go into round 2. It was shortly before this fight you get permission to use the super missiles, and you can pretty much just stand there shooting him with them while dodging the occasional hit. Granted, he does take a fair few missiles to bring down, but he's not an especially interesting or challenging boss. He has a couple of cool moves, but generally I was a little bit disappointed. You don't even get the satisfaction of doing an awesome lethal strike on him, or even killing him at all. He just flies off. You may have picked up just now that I said you get permission to use the super missiles, and this side of things is possibly one of the biggest dick moves in the history of everything ever. At the start of the game, the quarantine officer tells you to,
Let's go next door.
but rather than looking for his personality, you have a quick tutorial of the basic controls, combat system, and some of Samus's abilities, like the wall jump, missiles, morph bombs, and everything's peachy. Until you meet up with Adam when Samus decides not to use her weapons because Adam hasn't authorised it. Seriously, why? Samus has said that she's no longer under his command, and she wasn't exactly sent there to help them, so why has she decided not to use her stuff just because Adam hasn't said so? Does not compute. It's just ridiculous. There are collectible items you have the ability to get and should be able to get them, but purely because Adam hasn't given you permission to use the item needed to get it, you can't. What makes this even more stupid is that shortly after meeting up with Adam, Samus shows she can act on her own free will anyway.
Adam hadn't authorized it, but I decided to remain on site for the sake of the others.
But it's not until you get attacked by this thing that Adam actually asks for help, but even then Samus needed to grow a pair.
Samus, looks like I'm gonna need to ask for your cooperation on this mission, but I'm also gonna have to ask that you follow my commands. You don't move unless I say so, and you don't fire until I say so.
No! You don't ask for someone's help and then give them conditions for helping you out. Samus should have told him to stick his commands so far up his arse he could clean his teeth with them. Had Samus have been sent there purely to help them out, then I can understand that she would have to follow his orders. But she met them there completely coincidentally. As Samus said, he is a former superior officer, so why the hell would she go along with it? Samus is a complete powerhouse, so why would you want to limit what she can do, especially when you've just been attacked by something that's tried to turn you into raspberry jam? But at least there is one item that at least Adam gives a decent reason for not letting you use.
We currently have no plans to authorize the use of power bombs. As you know, they have the ability to spread a high-temperature heat wave over a large area, impacting living things, which is a nice way of saying they can vaporize humans instantly.
See, that's fine, it makes sense, but let's have a look at some of the other stuff, starting with the ice beam. After an hour or so, you'll enter an area where your power beam isn't very effective against the creatures, making it quite difficult to beat them, so Adam steps in.
Looks like the normal beam won't have any impact on the enemies around here. Samus, use your ice beam.
yes, you had the ice beam all along, but you can only now use it. However, you've not actually needed to use the ice beam so far, so I suppose it's not too bad. As you're wandering around, you occasionally find switches covered by glass you can't shoot. There's one in an ice area where you can't shoot it, so you have to go all the way back, and you'd think that as you're in an ice area, Adam would let you use the plasma beam, but that would require common sense. As you head back, you suddenly get trapped in a glass cage and attacked by baddies, but due to the glass, you can't hit them, so Adam says,
Samus, you need a permeating shot effect to get past this. I'm authorizing you to unlock your wave beam.
So now you can shoot through the glass and kill them. You then have to head all the way back to where the switch was, which includes going through an electrified maze in order to activate it. Why? Why wait for you to get attacked before allowing you to use it? And what if Samus wasn't just randomly attacked at that moment? No wave beam, no way to continue. Why couldn't Adam have just gone, you need to use the wave beam to activate that switch, otherwise you can't continue. Use it. Job done, but that would require too much common sense. But it gets worse. From fairly early on, you find places you can use your grapple beam. You have the grapple beam, but Adam hasn't authorised its use, so they're useless. There comes a point where you actually need to use the grapple beam in order to continue, but as you can't use it yet, you head back when Adam says,
Okay, Samus, head to Sector 2. There's a high probability of survivors hiding there.
So rather than let you use the grapple beam to continue, nor does Samus use it anyway, he sends you backtracking to the main elevator to go somewhere else. However, later on you come back to this area where you stumble across Anthony being attacked.
Samus, use of the grapple beam is authorized. Get to Anthony and cover him.
And it's now that Adam allowed you to use the grapple beam to help Anthony, and then you can use it to cross the area you weren't able to before. What's the point? It's just like with the wave beam. We were there already, so why make us go off gallivanting somewhere else for ages, only to come back, find someone being randomly attacked, and then allow us to use an ice beam we needed to use 2 hours ago? Adam, use some common sense. But it gets worse! This is just... see for yourself. When you enter one of the sectors, there's a lot of lava around, and due to the intense heat, you start losing health, so have to majorly run for it. As you progress further, you see the lava is coming from an active volcano, and you're heading straight for it. You ultimately end up running up to, enter, and then climb the volcano. There are some rooms where you're protected against the heat, but the rooms where you suffer from the heat are fairly regular. Once you've managed to climb all the way to the top of the volcano, what does Adam do?
Samus, activate the Varia feature on your suit to protect yourself from heat damage.
That's right, you had the Varia suit the entire time, and you've just spent about an hour running towards, entering, and then climbing a volcano. Would have been helpful to have that from the start, rather than making me go through all of that, prove I don't need it, and then allowing me to use it. Imagine if they did that in other games. Oh yeah, time to save the Gorons, because I am just that awesome. Nothing is going to stand in my way. I'm gonna... What does that mean? Have I got a time limit because of the heat? I suppose it's understandable. I am in the crater of a volcano. What am I... Hang on. Didn't I just get given a heat-resistant tunic from one of the Gorons? Oh yeah, time to...
Listen!
Fuck you! But you want to know what the stupidest part is? In the rooms where you lose health, Samus can die. Adam doesn't jump in at the last minute and go, Samus, use the Varia feature on your suit. It'll protect you from the heat. He just watches you burn. And he expects you to follow his orders? No. Bollocks to you, Adam. You're a retard, and even your face pisses me off. But it's not just Adam that has retard moments. Samus doesn't just use the Varia feature to save her own life. She just walks into her own death. And when Adam goes missing, there are even more retard moments. At one point, Adam goes missing, so he's unable to be contacted. You're following the traitor that has been killing the members of the Galactic Federation. Yeah, there's a traitor in the group who's going around killing the other members of the Galactic Federation. Should probably talk about that soon. Anyway, as you follow him, he crosses a bridge and then destroys it, preventing you from getting across, so Samus takes matters into her own hands.
Any objections, Adam?
Now I know what you're thinking. Sweet, that means she's allowed herself to use all of her weapons and stuff, right? Wrong. There are still a few things you can't use. She has literally just allowed herself to use the screw attack, which I still think sounds really dodgy. All through the game there are water pools you have to walk through, and it's really annoying as your movements are restricted, but at least it gives me the opportunity to use a tune I've wanted to use for ages. You have the gravity suit that allows you to move freely in water, but without permission, she won't use it. And even when you're running through an anti-gravity area while Adam is still missing, she still doesn't use it, though this part of the game was pretty sweet. And you even have to fight a boss that increases the force of gravity. The boss fight is pretty good, but due to the high gravity, your movements are fairly restricted, which can get a bit annoying, a problem that could easily have been avoided if she used the gravity suit. The gravity issue goes away once you defeat the boss, and it becomes whatever the hell that is. It just lies there, motionless. It's bound to come back later. Shortly after, you meet up with Adam, who has a plan to destroy the Metroids.
Sector 0 has a self-destruct protocol. If the sector receives a significant amount of damage, the unit is programmed to detach and self-destruct.
Adam sacrifices himself to destroy all the research data held in the ship, as well as the farmed Metroids, and of course, it seems as though we're supposed to feel sad about what's going on, but the scene just doesn't have that effect, even though it could have been much better with just a couple of tiny tweaks. Anyway, whilst you're trying to get to safety, the ship detaches, causing some space pirates and you to be sucked into space. Then Samus does this. She just decides to activate it herself. Why couldn't she have done that earlier, like when she's being attacked by a giant creepy robot thing that rams into you and you have to jump out of the way while your movements are being restricted by gravity? She goes through all of that and doesn't think to use the gravity feature. At least you can show just how evil you are by shooting the Zavizians so they get sucked into space and die a slow, painful death. As you've probably guessed, that thing does come back, but at least now you've got the gravity suit, your movements aren't restricted, so the fight is pretty good, and that thing is a tad creepy, especially with that noise it makes. It's horrible. As with all Metroid games, there are a few bosses to fight, but for the most part they're a bit of a disappointment. They aren't exactly edge-of-your-seat battles, nor are they that difficult to work out how to defeat. Sure, there are some fights where you get to use some awesome moves to lay the smackdown on them, and they are funky to watch, but during those parts, that's all you do. Watch. There's no quick time event to get through, no button combination to enter, nothing. You just wait until the right moment to shoot them. The final boss in the game isn't that great either, the Metroid Queen, spoiler alert, mainly because the Metroids are pissing annoying. The game is, for some reason, played holding the Wii remote sideways, but to shoot missiles, you point the remote at the screen to switch to a first-person view, so not only is there a slight delay in wanting to shoot missiles and actually being able to, but you then can't actually move. Because of this, I kept getting attacked by the Metroids when I'm trying to shoot the damn things, and after the 12th consecutive time, it gets really annoying. What makes it even more annoying is that after you've finally gotten through it, the Queen eats you and you literally have seconds to psychically know what to do. Luckily, you have a continue option so you don't have to do it all over again, but even so, how the hell are you supposed to know that this is where you're supposed to use the power bomb? It's just stupid. In contrast, the best boss of the game would actually be in the optional post-game mission where Phantoon, one of the bosses from Super Metroid, appears. There's a hell of a lot going on screen, so it really keeps you on your toes to avoid everything that's trying to kill you. Thing is, due to the sense move, it also makes the boss a little simple, as all you have to do is keep dodging the blue-eye flame things and shooting charge shots. Towards the end, things get crazy with weird hands, vortexes and lasers, so it's a decent boss. It's just a bit of a shame that it's defeated fairly easily. One thing you may have noticed throughout this is the lack of healing items dropped by enemies. In Other M, by far the most common way of restoring your health is by using the save point. You do have a restoration ability, but you can only use that when you are critically low on health, but even then it's unreliable. It takes ages for you to heal, so unless you can run to a quiet place, it's purely down to luck that you don't get attacked and killed before the restoration can finish, which is also really pissing annoying, especially as you only restore some of your health, so 1 or 2 hits and you're back to square one. But what makes it really mind-boggling is the fact that you can use it any time to regenerate your missiles. That's right, you are pretty much able to use mental energy to create your own missiles. How the hell does that work? But due to the lack of healing items and the unreliability of the regeneration, the boss I tended to have the most trouble with was actually the Traitor. As a boss, he drives a whatever the hell one of those is, and although the sense move comes into play a lot, there's more to it than just dodge and shoot, but because that thing is so huge, even if you do dodge out the way, you could still wind up getting smacked by it. Thing is, he probably shouldn't be that difficult, but for some reason I died more fighting him than any of the other bosses, as we saw earlier. So, when you first meet MB, she tells you she saw one of the members of the Galactic Federation kill one of the other members, and you get occasional scenes of the traitor gathering victims. Weird thing is, it justifies why the traitor is there, so the members of the team can't talk of the illegal activities that went on there under the orders of the Galactic Federation themselves, but the game doesn't tell you who the traitor actually is. I only found out who it was because I was told it was James, this twat face here. If you really pay attention to who's who, what they're doing, and what happens to them, you can work it out, but you probably won't. I had my suspicions, but because I forgot about the 10-second scene where a body gets kicked into lava, I was wrong. It's a bit of a pointless subplot, seeing as if they wanted to kill people off, there are plenty of creatures around that could have killed them, or even MB herself could have done it. After playing the game twice, I still had some unanswered questions. Why did Adam sacrifice himself? What was he hoping to achieve? Why didn't the Galactic Federation just blow the ship up? Why send in a traitor? And from talking to people who have also played the game, I wasn't the only one in that situation. But as I was looking through my captured footage, I found one scene that pretty much explained everything. It's almost as though the developers of the game made a list of things that they wanted to explain, but the list went missing, and then when they found the list near the game's completion, they just chucked everything in right at the last minute so people couldn't complain and they'd think there was actually some logic into what was going on. But during the game there was one moment where the concept of logic just got sucked into a black hole. You've spent hours running down corridors, investigating what's going on, fighting baddies and generally being awesome, and you see a small gap just big enough for the morph ball, nothing you haven't done before. But it's as I was rolling along that all of a sudden, everything was put into perspective. We're in a ship! In space! Why the fuck would you put a desert area, an ice fortress, lush forests, and above all a fucking volcano that is spewing out lava in a ship that is going into space? It doesn't make any sense. Sure, some of them I can accept. Maybe there's a problem with the climate control, some areas got frozen over, hence the frozen fortress. And I suppose they would have some plants on board so that they have a fresh oxygen supply in the confines of the ship. But given everything that's going on, things got a little bit out of control. It's far-fetched, but I'll roll with it. But an active volcano? No, there is no plausible reason you would need an active volcano in the middle of a ship that is going into space. It's just plonked into the middle of one of the sectors, so I highly doubt they're using it for geothermal energy. Sure, they need something with a high temperature so that Samus would need to use the Varia suit, but have an explosion that causes a raging inferno, job done, and it would make sense. An active volcano is...
That is preposterous.
When you get down to the basics, Metroid Other M is just one poor decision after another. There are elements to the game where it could have been really good, but there's so much wrong with it that it just gets in the way. The game's received a lot of hate since it was released, and although I can see why, it mainly seems to be due to the word Metroid. If you just go into the game without any preconceptions about the characters, the story, and just accept things for what they are, just don't think about things too much and just roll with it, then it's actually not too bad, and I did enjoy playing it. It's certainly not amazing and nowhere near as good as the Metroid Prime Trilogy, but it is entertaining enough, so although it is a piss-poor Metroid game, it's not a bad game. See you next time.
She's taking time making up the reasons to justify all the hurt inside. Guess she friends got a theory about the bitter one. They're saying, well, mama never loved her much, and well, daddy never keeps in touch. That's why she shies away from human affection. But somewhere in a private place, she packs a bag for outer space. And now she's waiting for the right kind of pilot to come.